All right, y'all. Well, we are back on Rooted and Radiant. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm so excited that you are here today. We are continuing in a new year, a renewed you. And today is all about setting faith filled goals without burnout. Because let's be real, it's a new year, but last year maybe was rough for a lot of y'all. It was rough for me, and I experienced burnout more times than I would like to admit. So today is all about we're going to set goals, but we're going to avoid burnout. And we have the best guest to talk about that. My dear friend, the Andaur, is here, and she is based here in Tampa. She is a leader and a strategist who believes health and faith and intentionally living are deeply connected, and she is in business, brand building, and people leadership. And her grounded perspective on growth, discipline, and modern success is truly why I wanted her to be here today. And this is something that we've talked about for a few months. So I'm glad that we are able to make this happen. And I want you to leave every single episode, as always, feeling challenged, feeling encouraged, and feeling inspired. So, welcome to the show, Katie.
Hi.
Goodness, I'm so glad you're here. This is for me with episodes, they tend to go deep really quickly. So I kind of added in a light part at the beginning. So we're going to start with a couple of questions, just break the ice a little bit. So
I loved it.
describe a 10 for you. That could be a cold day, that could be a perfectly cut steak. Like what would be a 10 for you?
I think a 10 for me is sunsets. Sunsets, sunrises. It doesn't matter which one. I don't have a better one where I'm just a sunrise girl or I'm a sunset. Either one, I think, are just the most beautiful things to watch, and the colors in the sky every time. I just admire them so much. So that would be my 10, a good sunset. And if we're on a beach, even better.
Yes, yes, absolutely. The sunsets here recently have been so gorgeous. The
Oh my gosh,
sky
the
has been
sky.
orange.
It's so beautiful. The other day, I've never seen a more beautiful pink and orange sunset in Tampa before. It was like, wow. I was like, way to start off the new year. It was beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. What is something that you just don't understand?
Something that I just don't understand. Ooh, why people wouldn't like dogs. I don't understand that.
Mm, that's true. What is something that you could do over and over again and never get tired of?
Something I could do over and over again and get tired of. Genuinely probably talking with people. I could probably do that all day long and not ever get tired, meeting new people.
Yes, Katie is the ultimate connector. Seriously. If you were in a room, she will grab you and be like, "Hey, let me introduce you to these people." So this is her through and through. I can vouch for that. Okay. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
So, best piece of advice probably came from recently, and it was to be where your 2 feet are and to be present. You only get one life to live. And so to really enjoy the present moment and soak it all in because you're not getting this time back.
Oh, I love that. Be where your 2 feet are, like present. That's really good.
I always have to remind myself in the day when I get super stressed and the day goes haywire that be where your 2 feet are. Like be present. There's still good in this moment and take it from that. My
Yes.
grounding.
And then the last question, what is a question that you've never been asked, but you wish someone would ask you?
Honestly, I wish more people would ask me my why. I always ask people their why because I just love to get to know people on that deeper level. But I wish people would like impromptu ask me my why because I'm very passionate about my why. But I end up telling people, anyways.
Yes, and I think we're going to get into part of that today. You're in business, you're in health, you're in wellness. I know that's something super important to you and something that we originally connected on. When you think about goal setting, through a faith lens, what makes it different than just say, I'm just going to set random goals without having that faith aspect tied to it?
I think when it comes to goal setting, there's a lot to do with being in alignment and being in obedience with God. I think for me, the more that I in my faith, the more I am every day putting it into my routine, the more I notice that my goals and the goals that I'm setting start to fall in alignment with his calling for me and like the obedience part. So I would say goal setting probably has changed for me several different times in my life, depending on how obedient I was being to following him. There's always seasons we have where it's almost like we take a step back from following so much because we just get so busy in our day-to-day life. And I am now in the season where I don't care how busy I am making time because that time is, and I've noticed that because I've been doing that, my goals and the set goals that I have for myself are more in line with exactly that.
I love that you talked about that. And I kind of alluded to this in the beginning about living in this world where there's so much pressure. And I know you probably know this better than anyone with the field that you're in is this pressure, just setting all of these like unrealistic expectations or expectations that are, that the society, if you look at Instagram or you look on social media, you get these different ideas of what you think. So how can someone really figure out if the goal that they're setting isn't rooted in pressure, fear, or comparison?
I think the ultimate telltale sign is when you have that overwhelming amount of peace that just kind of comes over you. I think that is the biggest sign that that is your calling from God. Like that is you following in obedience and alignment is when you are at peace. I think when you are highly stressed in a very chronic anxious state or are just have a lot of like brain fog, cannot think properly, think straight, nothing feels right. That's when I feel like that is not what God is calling you to do. I think when you have just this ease about it and just this confidence going into it, I think that is him telling you this is the right path. This is the right step.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at least for me, and I've gotten a lot better about it over the years, but a lot of the times we can set these goals and we just keep pushing and we are in this like hustle culture and you push so much that you get to the point of burnout. But there were probably signs along the way that made you aware, okay, this is probably not going in a good direction. So can you talk about maybe some early warning signs, maybe for you or just for someone who's how do you know, like, you're getting close to burnout or the decisions that you're making are leading to burnout? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I see it every single day in our clinics. Every single day, we have entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners, all of these people who are making so many decisions in a day, myself included, that I think that is a huge reason to burnout, decision fatigue. I think us humans, we're not meant to make that many decisions in a day. And when you have so many different decisions where they're critical decisions and they're important decisions that you have to put a lot of mental thought into that tends to lead to an abundance of cortisol overload and stress. And so that is one thing that I've been very passionate about lately is just decision fatigue on people and how much that leads to burnout amongst individuals. But also, I think when you push and you don't rest, God actually calls us to rest. That's why there is the Sabbath. That is why there's all these things in the Bible talking about how important it is that your body is a temple and you need to treat it that way and you need to take care of it. We cannot perform in our jobs. We cannot lead people. We cannot even talk about our faith or disciple people if us ourselves is not rested, is not well taken care of, our health isn't in line. So I'm very passionate about that. And early signs for me is when I see people that come in that are not radiating or not confident,
Mm.
and they typically are. that's usually a sign for me that they're in a chronic, highly stressed state where they're not feeling like themselves. I talk a lot about health, faith, all that being in one, being in alignment. And whenever I see someone come into my clinic that I can just tell is not in alignment with themselves, it's kind of feeling like they're in a state of loss and just not understanding. That is when I can tell that there might be some burnout that is coming up.
You getting to see so much on a daily basis, what is some of the practical things or advice that you would give to someone who is seeing those signs?
Well, above all else, I say sleep is the number one most important thing that you can do that people always just put on the back burner. They're like, I'll sleep. There's the common saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I'm like, no, sleep now. Sleep now. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. But sleeping, eating good whole foods, you don't understand how much your diet truly affects you and your body. We have all this nutritious food put on this planet, and I always tell people, I'm like, eat the whole foods, skip the processed foods because all of that is going to cloud your brain and your judgment. So,
Yeah.
whole foods is super important. And also, I go back to your body as a temple. So, treat it like that. Put precious foods into your precious body. Take care of it. Water intake is another huge one that people often lack. It's the basics, really. I tell people, like, let's get back to the basics because a lot of times we get so chronically busy that we forget the basics, myself included. I'm always having to remind myself, you didn't really drink that much water today. You
Yeah.
need to
Me
drink
too.
water. And honestly, like if we could all just foundationally get back on a strong basic foundation and go that way, then we can build the little things. So once I get people back on track and back on a routine, then we start implementing the little things like glutathione to help like detox some of those things that we're putting into our body and stuff like that. For me, it's always let's get back down to the basics. And the most basic thing is always rest for most of my people.
Yes, I can identify with that. I used to be the person that would say, "I'll sleep when I'm dead." You show up differently when you're rested and you give your brain and your body time to, like, rest and recover. That's
You
why
speak deep differently, you lead differently, you have more confidence, you radiate, you glow. When you are well rested, you can conquer the world.
can you talk about how you invite God in the process of pursuing your goals and not just the outcome?
So I think that it is largely dependent on how you view success. So my version of success has also changed as I've grown as an individual, as I've learned more, as I've experienced more life. And for me, I shift from outcome based success to obedience based success. And that is what has shifted just my entire mindset and even just the way I live my day to day life. Instead of saying success is measured based on if I achieve this outcome or if I hit this money goal or if I hit this fitness goal, it is now is this in line with who I want to be, who God is calling me to be? And am I taking a step closer to becoming that person and learning those skills and developing myself as a human? And am I doing the things God calls me to do? Am I calling upon people? Am I pushing people? Am I challenging people? Am I bringing my perspectives to the table and then listening and being obedient? So that for me is success is measured that way. I always the saying where leave the world better than you came into it is how I now look at it and measure
Love
and
that.
is how I lead.
I love how you define success because for a lot of people, I think that's where we go wrong is we set what we think success is based solely on the outcome. And I read this book last year that changed how I looked at it and it was called The Gap and the Gain. And it talks a lot about how people would be further along in life if they focused on how far they've come versus stop focusing so much on what they haven't done because you're way further ahead. So I love that you talked about redefining it because that book completely changed my life and really put me in a position to like look back and be like, I may not be where I want to be yet, but I'm way further ahead than where I used to be 6 months ago, 3 months ago, 12 months ago.
Yes, and that is a huge thing I always talk about with people and I always preach is contrast in life, is to be able to have that contrast. Like how lucky you are to have contrast, to be able to know when things were bad, now things are good, to be able to appreciate the good so much more because you know what that bad looks like. And I always preach it and I always tell people exactly that. Like be proud of where you are, what you came from, what you learned. Take what you learned from all those bad experiences or all those hardships. Take the good out of them because you can take the good, apply that, learn, evolve, adapt, and keep going and do that for the rest of your life because we're constantly evolving, we're constantly learning, we're constantly going through new seasons. But if you can take the good out of all of it and just keep bettering yourself, you're going into what God's plan was for you all along. And this is all part of it. So anytime I get in a hard season or anytime I get super stressed, I just remind myself this was part of God's plan. This is what he was calling. He's sitting me in this season so that I can learn and I can evolve, I can adapt, and I can go more towards his calling for me.
Now we've kind of shifted the conversation talking a lot about success. I've learned this, and the older I get as humans, this is something that we struggle with. In certain seasons, your capacity looks different.
Yes.
But we tend to think because in this season my capacity looks this way that I am settling or I'm falling behind. So can you talk a little bit about how you can set goals based on your current capacity without feeling like you're settling or you're falling behind?
I think when you can sit with yourself, look in the mirror, have those deep, vulnerable conversations with yourself, and just be so honest, I think that's the best thing that you can do. Honestly, I had a season over the summer where I was just honest with everyone in my life around me that I had something that happened to me that wasn't the best, and I knew that I would not be able to run like I normally ran. Think of myself as like a horse. And I was like, there's no way I'm running in the Kentucky Derby this summer. I need to take a step back and I knew and I just told everyone, I was like, please give me grace during this season as I am navigating just a lot of new, a lot of change. And honestly, when you are very honest with people, they appreciate that and they take that. But as long as you don't take advantage of that, I am
Right.
someone who, I will tell you that I need that time, but then I will get right back up to speed once, my season has passed and I've learned and I've developed and I've gathered the right tools from that season to go forward. I think that's another part of it too is just being in alignment with yourself, having that integrity, being honest with people is what like really helps.
Yeah. So, talking about honesty with people, this is a part in the past that I have left out. Let's talk about boundaries for a second. How important is boundaries and putting them in place to really protect where you are, but while you're still trying to move forward?
I think when you have a clear vision for yourself and what you want, who you want to be, who you want to become, boundaries are just clearly stated in just your verbiage that you're talking, like in just the communication styles and just how you are communicating with people. I think for you to set clear boundaries, you have to be comfortable with yourself and know who you are. You can't be lost and know what your boundaries are. Like you have to be confident in yourself because then once you're confident in yourself, those boundaries just they come naturally. And you find that you're more at peace and you're more strong and you're more rooted when you have those boundaries and those boundaries come from you knowing who you are, what you want.
The boundaries is a form of protection so that you can actually keep moving forward. And I love that you talked a little bit about that. So, with success, with setting goals, we have this perception in our mind of how they're going to happen. And most of the time, we think they're going to happen a lot faster or quicker than they do. But a lot of the times, that is not the case. So, can you talk a little bit about how you navigate those seasons when you feel like progress is really slow or invisible?
I know that sometimes you have to take one step back to leap two steps forward. So I never use those seasons. I never let those seasons go to waste. I use those seasons and I really sit with myself. I sit with God I observe. I very observant in those seasons because I sit back and I think, what am I supposed to be taking from this season? What is happening in this season that is going to help me in the next season? And so I look at it as an opportunity to grow, to expand, maybe try a new hobby or habit because maybe I have the time. I look at it as a way that God is calling me. It's time to adapt. It's time to evolve. Let's kind of sit, let's take a seat back, let's observe. Then usually he always excels me forward. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of people, but it's how you use that season. It's not using that season to, keep going backwards, but using that season as a just to sit and observe and watch season so that you can evolve, adapt, and grow.
Yeah, I love how you said to sit and observe and you don't let those seasons go to waste because I've learned how you leave one season is how you enter the next season. So if you really do what you just talked about, like you're setting yourself up to move into that next season with grace. So let's wrap up with this because I know that there's someone that's listening to this episode that's like, okay, that sounds great, but I'm already past the early signs. I'm feeling burnt out. I have so much on my plate and maybe feel like a lost cause. What is some advice that you would give to that person of one practical thing that they can do today to realign their goals, to, get back on the side of not feeling burnt out, to kind of get on the right track?
Honestly, I talked about back to the basics. Breathe. When you are in that state where you are just like, have all this stuff to do. For my moms, it's like I have kids and a household to take care of. I have work. I have all of these responsibilities, and it feels like the world is on your shoulders. Breathe. Just sit there and take that deep breath and realize that this is such a precious life. Life is so short. Do what you can, but do not take on the world on your shoulders. Do what you can, be realistic with yourself. And I think another huge thing is we put all of these unrealistic expectations on ourselves. We think
Yep.
we are just these freaking machines out here that can just do everything. And it's like, no, you're human. You are human. And so for me, it's always when I have people come in and even myself, when I catch myself being like, well, I have to do this, I have to do this. There's not enough time in the day. I always remind myself, breathe. Let's calm ourselves down. Let's get ourselves back in tuned with ourselves and let's set realistic goals and expectations of what I can achieve. I love to do brain dumps first thing in the morning where it's like
Ooh.
first thing when I wake up. What all do I have to get done today? What is a priority? And I do it that way. And then I do my secondaries and then I do my thirds and I do my, well, if I can get to it, then I can do these things. But setting that brain dump first thing, getting all that clutter out of your head first thing, I find is just the best way to go about it. But being realistic with yourself is also very important too.
I think that comes with what you talked about a little bit earlier is just when you're in alignment with yourself and you're rooted in who you are, the decisions that you make will start to come from that place and not comparison or influence of the world because we're in the world, but we're not of it. And we shouldn't conform to the things that are going on because what might work for you may not work for me. And so if I'm making decisions based on what works for you, then I'm putting myself that's not in alignment with where God has me. So oh my gosh, I feel like we could go on and on, but is there anything else that we haven't covered that you are like, I need to say this or I need to encourage this? Anything you feel on your heart before I tell the people how they can stay connected with you?
A big thing, and I think I touched on this earlier, is just to be able to sit with yourself in that mirror and deeply reflect on everything about you, like your deepest and darkest secrets and moments, the things that light you up. To sit with yourself in that mirror and really go deep with yourself. I always tell people you can only go deep with people as deep as you've met yourself.
Yes.
Will always you'll realize and you'll find out so much about yourself when you can sit and have those honest and vulnerable conversations with yourself. You'll find that you can lead people, that you can help people better because you can actually connect with them and go deep with them. And that is what God calls us to do. He calls us to do that time and time again is to just help people. And so that is a big thing that I am talking about and preaching with people contrast in life, to appreciate and adore and love the contrast that we're giving because it actually gives us perspective on life and it gives us the ability to enjoy the good so much more. And so just leading with pure intentions, a good heart, stepping into your calling, having those deep, vulnerable conversations with yourself, and really analyzing and looking at contrast, I think are all things that people in 2026 should really hound in on and focus on.
Yeah, I love that you said that you can only meet people at the level that you met yourself. I'm like, that is gold if you took nothing else away from today. So, Katie is a boss in the Tampa area. So, can you tell people how they can stay connected with you? What exciting things you have coming up?
Yeah. My DMs are always open. Genuinely, if you have any questions, if you want to just go grab coffee, I love, love, love to get to know people on just that deep level, like I talked about. Genuinely, that makes my heart happy is to know people beyond just the surface level. I think we're all called to just be able to connect on that deep level. And so, if you are going through a season or if you just need a friend, I am here arms wide open. So you can either connect with me through there. We have two clinics that we are currently rebranding. They're
What?
longevity and aesthetic centers. So we're all about focusing on that inside out approach with the human and really fixing the inside so that externally you are thriving and living your best life. And so I do have 2 clinics. I have one in South Tampa, I have one in St. Pete, and if you are ever feeling like you are burnt out and you just need some extra help or support, me and my experts on our team will help you and will help guide you from a clinical and a medical perspective, as well as just from a human perspective as well, and a relationship perspective as well. So if you are needing that, you're needing a safe space, we have curated those spaces for people in the Tampa Bay area that are looking for that community, that are looking for that just extra support and help. And so there's that, or you can connect with me virtually. Either one, I am open. My at is katie.andour. And then the new businesses, well, the two new locations will be called Adair. So if anyone wants to come in and experience exactly what I just talked about, it'll be called Adair here soon.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Well,
Can't wait.
everything that you talked about connecting, getting coffee, that is very true. We met not that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and that was immediately how she was when we connected. And you meet people in life and you just know they're gonna be a part of your life because you just instantly connect. And so that was how it was when I met Katie, and I'm so glad you came on today. And if you didn't take anything away from today, I want you to take one goal that you are currently pursuing, and I want you to bring it to God this week. And I want you to ask Him, is this aligned with who I'm becoming? And what would pursuing this without constant pressure, what would that look like? Because lasting impact is built, like we've talked about today, from the inside out. And faith filled goals, they should deepen peace, they shouldn't drain it.
Ex-
If you got something from this episode, I'd love for you to reach out to us and share on Instagram. If you're not following me, it's Rooted and Radiant Pod. And then I'm also on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. And as always, I want you to stay rooted and I want you to stay radiant. I love you guys.
Thank you, Ashley. You're the best.